Good morning, everyone. Welcome along to Oulton Park and the start of a new season for Ginetta Racing. It is the Michelin Ginetta Junior Championship making its debut on the British GT package here on Easter Monday at an overcast, perhaps slightly damp still Oulton Park circuit, but a track that is a real driver's favourite, and with these Ginetta Junior cars should produce, hopefully, an entertaining 20 minutes of racing. Yesterday's race was won reasonably comfortably, actually, by Freddie Slater over Charlie Hart in second, with Hugo Schwartz in third position. That really was the big battle. There was an early dice between Freddie and the chasing pack, but eventually Freddie able to establish himself out front and left behind a five-way fight for the lower podium places. Charlie Hart second, Hugo Schwartz third, Reza Surathan in fourth, and Mikey Porter fifth position. Those four were covered by less than a second at the flag, so it was a very close affair, exactly what we expect really from Ginetta Junior Championship Racing. These G40 Junior cars known for their close quarters slipstreaming action. Full international circuit here at Oulton Park, a version of the track that this championship, to my knowledge, has only raced on once before, and it allows the drivers to really stretch their legs out on the far side of the track. Presents a couple of good overtaking opportunities that we will see all of those used to good effect over the course of the next 20 minutes. Obviously, this is the first round of the championship and a new dawn for Ginetta as they move across to the British GT package. So we've got a bit of a Ginetta festival here today with, I think I'm right in saying, 5 Ginetta races over the course of the day across the Ginetta Junior Championship, the GT Academy Championship, and the Pro Tire Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship too. So if you're a fan of Ginetta racing, you have absolutely come to the right place. And the juniors, real fan favourites. There is nothing not to like about junior racing. You stick a bunch of teenagers in reasonably powerful rear-wheel drive mini GT cars, and you are guaranteed some action and entertainment. And the crowd who have got here bright and early this morning, well, early at least, are in for a treat. Lots of new drivers racing in the championship this year. In fact, the vast majority of the field are entered into the rookie class. Only 3 drivers returning from last year. Alicia Palmowski is back, so too Mackenzie Douglas, and Luca Hopkinson for our racing also raced in the championship last season. Everybody else brand new, so a lot of new names for us to familiarise ourselves with, and that always makes it difficult to predict who we're going to see at the pointy end of the field, and what makes these opening rounds of the championship particularly exciting. Freddie Slater certainly has stolen a march on the competition in the championship so far. Only 1 race down, and there's plenty of time even this weekend with 3 races to be completed in total for the others to strike back. Saw there Charlie Hart, who will start second on the grid. There is Hugo Schwartz, the German driver racing for Elite Motorsport. Elite, one of the top teams in Ginetta racing over recent years. They've had success in juniors, they've had success in the GT5 challenge as well in recent seasons. And Hugo looking to try and continue that legacy for Elite Motorsport this season. Decent start yesterday with 3rd place, but like I said, that those lower podium places could have gone any one of 5 ways, really. There were 2 non-finishes yesterday, including Alicia Palmowski, who, as I said, was one of the more experienced drivers on the grid, used that term relatively. Felix Livesey also failed to reach the finish, and in fact Felix was the first of the retires, Palmowski falling off on the final lap of the race, hoping that both of those cars are at the back of the grid, a grid that is based upon 2nd fastest qualifying times, so that is something for which those who struggled yesterday will be very grateful for. Means that their weekends are not completely destroyed, so Palmowski in particular will actually start 5th on the grid for this one, despite not getting to the end of yesterday's race. Senan Fielding there, who was greeting some old friends in the pit lane. Senan, someone with a background of Ginetta racing, of course, from a number of years ago now. These days becoming a top GT pro, and watching along with interest to see how the next generation of GT stars get on. Green flag lap then underway. Last chance for the drivers to get some heat into their tyres and check out the track conditions. You'll have noticed that on the outlap from the pit lane, they take the shorter route around the track. They cut through what's known always as the Foster's layout, a layout of the track that sadly isn't used anymore, but always used to produce some really good racing. Hopefully that makes a return at some point. For now, though, it's used to get the cars out onto the grid a little bit more quickly than if they had to do the full lap, but this is the first chance they will have to check out the back end of the circuit. So Freddie Slater then on pole position, Charlie Hart alongside. Surprised to hear that they are both rookie drivers, so too Hugo Schwartz and Riza Sivorathun in the second row of the grid, Elite Motorsport alongside R Racing. Alicia Palmowski looking to bounce back after the non-finish yesterday. Finn Harrison will be there on the third row as well, alongside Mikey Porter and Luca Hopkinson. Row number 5 then completing the top 10 for Mackenzie Douglas and Tom Spragg. Mackenzie Douglas, one of those 3 returning drivers from last year. Chase Fernandez and Leo Robinson are next. The Ali Rushforth Motorsport car on the outside of row number 6. Felix Livesey, the other non-finisher yesterday, has to come from 13th today alongside Freddie Allen, another of the Elite Motorsport Brigade. And then on the 8th row of the grid, Edu Robinson, Spaniard, and Gray Anglis even, another one of the Ali Rushforth cars, starting from 16th. Harry Boss and Holly Bile are next, and that will take us to the back of the 18-car grid. And one of the fascinating things with junior racing is that there are always some drivers who might not start the season at the very front, but by halfway through the year they will find themselves up towards the pointy end. It's always really exciting to watch those drivers getting quicker and quicker as the season goes on. So some of those who perhaps are towards back of the top 10 today looking to move forward, so within this race perhaps, but certainly as the year goes on. On board here with Alicia Palmowski, who'll be bringing us some on-board footage and should be in the thick of the action, starting 5th on the grid. And the Elite Motorsport driver, the yellow and black familiar colours of Elite Motorsport. And that car should have podium pace, you would have thought. Palmowski qualified 4th for yesterday's race, was running in the front pack when retirement beckoned, but expect the number 21 car to be competitive as we go racing. In the track conditions, it was raining quite heavily on my journey here this morning, but it looks as though that rain has skirted largely around Oulton Park itself, because the track isn't looking all that damp, so fingers crossed the drivers won't have any particularly tricky conditions to deal with out there. Might be a few damp patches, a few white lines you might want to avoid. Stay off the painted red and white curbs, and certainly stay off the green concrete beyond them, because that's when you start getting in trouble for exceeding track limits, which I don't think is something we heard an awful lot about in Saturday's race. Had a couple of penalties. 10-second penalty was handed out to one driver for jumping the start, but track limits, thankfully, not something we've been discussing too much this weekend. 20 minutes of racing action then, the second round of the Michelin Ginetta Junior Championship about to get underway. Someone is creeping at the back as the red lights go on. Now they go out, and finally the race gets underway proper. Decent start made by Freddie Slater from pole position, but to the outside line is going Charlie Hart, and Charlie knows the significance of trying to clear him as soon as he can. There's almost a bit of rubbing into the corner. Charlie ends up losing second place there to Hugo Schwartz, and Alicia Palmowski already in the thick of the action, going for third place actually down the avenue. That's been a really good start from Palmowski. The yellow and black car on the outside line into Cascades corner. Now, is there any grip out there? The dirty side of the road, it might be a bit damper out there. They lean on each other coming off the turn, but they all get safely through Cascades for the first time. Down the Lakeside Straight then, it is the number 7 car of Freddie Slater that leads the way. Great start by Hugo Schwartz into second. Palmowski is third. 4th for Charlie Hart. He'll be disappointed with that after what was a good getaway, but just tried to hang tough around the outside at Old Hall Corner. That's a difficult thing to do, and ended up with a bit of a squeeze on the exit. Up towards the braking zone at Britain's. Alicia Palmowski really now starting to look like maybe even a race-winning contender. Plenty of curb being taken. The suspension taking an absolute beating on these Ginetta G40 Juniors as they out of Britain's over Hilltop, down into the braking zone at Hislop Chicane. This is a place where if you're feeling brave, you can make a move. Defensive line taken by Charlie Hart there to ensure that he doesn't lose any more positions from where he started. Whilst further back, the 37 car of Leo Robinson is doing the same sort of thing. It's really the first part of the lap where they've properly settled down single file. They accelerate out of Knickerbrook over Clay Hill, not underneath the footbridge because it is absent at the start of the season, but taken away from some renovations. It's a very strange sight not having the Clay Hill Bridge looming above the drivers as they head towards one of the fastest parts of the track into Druids. Double apex right-hander, exit speed crucial here, because Lodge Corner, the final turn, is probably the best overtaking point on the track, and it looks as though again Charlie Hart is the one under attack into that braking zone. That is Luca Hopkinson, number 48, who started 8th on the grid, challenging now for 4th position, so a good start from the 48 machine. And as they head for Old Hall Corner, might try and pop it back up the inside of Charlie Hart into the right-hander. Is he close enough? Not quite. And so the positions stay as they were, turning through the deceptively quick right-hand first corner. 16 there, Tom Spragg making a move up the inside, and now Charlie Hart is under threat properly. Oh, there's a spin further back. Number 66, Freddie Allen, has gone around. Miraculously avoided by everyone, but he's stranded in the middle of the road and hopefully hasn't stalled the car. Is that Charlie Hart running wide? No, that was Hopkinson running wide. Charlie Hart has retained 4th place, and Hopkinson now coming under attack from Siwarathan as they go into Island Bend. Sideways over the inside curb, and it is very much Hopkinson who's getting squeezed out wide. That's Porter up the inside in the 19 car, but the next corner is the banked right-hander at the Shell hairpin, and the inside line is definitely the place to be. Porter now drifts out wide and perhaps allows the number 38 car of Finn Harrison to come through. Finn started 6th, crossed the line 8th at the end of lap 1. He'll be a tad disappointed with that, as again they make the leap of faith through the Britain chicane. Can't do your back much good, leaping over the curbs like that every lap, but the youngsters don't seem to mind too much, do they? Leading trio starting to make this break then, but not breaking away from each other particularly, especially Slater and Schwartz. They are very evenly matched in the early stages. Schwartz sort of held up in that second place battle, never really was able to go after Freddie Slater yesterday, but this morning he has an opportunity to do so. Charlie Hart leading that train of cars for 4th. There are the leaders though. Freddie Slater, number 7. Just a wisp of tyre smoke there as he flings the car into Druid's corner. Oh, and a big sideways moment out towards the curb there for Reza Siwarathan, who dropped back from 4th on the grid at the start. Is now back into 5th. Behind, though, they're going side by side, and that's a lovely move if it works up the inside line for Harrison. It will work because he squeezes Hopkinson out onto the dirt, and Hopkinson, who a lap ago was attacking for 4th position, is now in danger of slipping towards the back of the top 10. He jinks across to the right-hand side of the road to defend into Old Hall Corner, but it looks as though that is Douglas going to the outside of him. And Mackenzie Douglas is going to try and go right around the outside line. There's a bit more squeeze play on the exit. The 19 car of Mikey Porter buying into the battle too. And Hopkinson doesn't really know which side of the road to go, does he? He moves to the right, moves to the left, back to the right, then gets to the inside into Cascades Corner and leaves the two behind to squabble side by side. Over the curve for Porter. Mackenzie Douglas will have the inside line now for Island Bend. And then they've got Chase Fernandez closing in as well in the number 90 car. This is typically frenetic Ginetta Junior action, and these cars designed in a way to produce this sort of racing. They are not terribly aerodynamic, not particularly powerful. By junior racing standards they are, but they are certainly not the quickest cars you'll see racing at Oulton Park today. And that means that the slipstream and momentum, corner exit, carrying the right racing line, that is all crucial. And of course this is exactly what junior drivers are trying to learn. And it teaches them racecraft, teaches them car control, and it's why so many good drivers have come out of this championship. So Alicia Parmowski were on board with their leading in the junior category, which ironically is the class with fewer entrants this weekend. The cars all the same, but it is essentially for drivers who are not rookies to the championship. The white numbers with the orange background, they're the rookie drivers on your timing tower. The black background denotes the juniors. They're all juniors in a way. 14 to 17-year-olds racing in this championship, and you can tell that through some of the exuberant driving that we're seeing on display. That was Felix Livesey, non-finisher yesterday, trying to find a way ahead of the number 23 car there of Holly Mile, who started at the back of the grid. Holly was 18th and last on the grid, but has moved up into 16th place now, and wanting to try and keep hold of that. Just ahead, 47 there was Harry Moss. The leaders at the line, though. This is for the completion of another lap, the 3rd lap now completed. And the top 3 are now starting to spread themselves out ever so slightly. It's the best part of a 1-second lead now for Slater over Schwartz. And then about the same, 1.1 back to Parmowski in 3rd. The battle remains the one really for 4th position. And a sideways Charlie Hart is really now starting to feel the heat. The R-Racing driver, Swarthan, right behind, who gets very sideways over the curb coming out of Cascades, tries to jink to the inside line down the Lakeside straight. But Charlie Hart is wise to that. Covers the inside line. Going in tight into Island Bend, though, isn't always a good thing. It can lead you to wash out wide on the exit, which he does, but then that buys in the inside line for Ireland. This is why it's a challenge to overtake here at Oulton Park. Drivers like to tell you it's impossible to pass at Oulton Park. We've seen in the past that that is absolutely not the case, but it is difficult for sure. You have to be really on your toes and try to take advantage perhaps of a mistake from the driver ahead in order to be able to make an overtake. Charlie Hart, though, at the moment not putting a foot wrong. He is having to defend a lot, and that is losing him time to the leaders, but he is at least managing to keep these two behind him. Swarthen and Harrison, at the 38 machine. Finn Harrison running for Assetto Racing, and he's got the double toe now as they head over Clay Hill towards the left-hand kink before Druids. Surely not a move up the inside at Druids. That's a very brave place to try a pass. And Swarthen backs out of it, rightly so. Because that was going to be a low percentage move, I think is what they call it in the business. And actually, by peeking to the inside into Druids' corner, he's ended up scuppering his exit speed, and so that does now bring Harrison right onto his tail. A switchback manoeuvre out of Lodge corner, and I think this could be the opportunity that Harrison has been waiting for. He's got the inside line for Old Hall corner, and Finn Harrison for 5th position, maybe. Late on the brakes, car squirming around over the bumps, gets to the apex first, and doesn't run too wide on the exit. Lovely bit of driving that from Finn Harrison, and demonstrated really exactly the point I was just making. Often the driver who tries to make a lunge and tries to outbrake the car in front, if it doesn't work, they end up on the back foot and perhaps lose a place, and you've got to be on your toes, ready to take advantage of that situation. One car out wide, that was Fernandez, who actually had a surprisingly gentle run across the grass there at Cascades. It's extremely bumpy when you run beyond track limits there. I've seen many a car get torn to pieces by bouncing across the grass heading down the Lakeside Straight, but Fernandez getting away with that, retains his 10th place as well. As the field settles into the mid-portion of the race now. Freddie Slater, race leader, did a 2-minute 2.9 last time around, which was another 10th quicker than Schwartz in 2nd position, who was almost matched, almost exactly, by Palmowski. On this lap, though, I'd say Palmowski is gaining. Yes, Alicia Palmowski, fastest of anyone on this lap, at least in Sector 1. Personal best for the number 21 car. And took a 10th and a bit out of Schwartz, ahead in 2nd place. Walter and Douglas, meanwhile, continuing their scrap for 8th position. There are the leaders. Again, that wisp of smoke from the back of Freddie Slater's car. I'm guessing it may be a tyre sort of rubbing against bodywork as he leans on it through Druids' corner. Side by side here through Druids between Hopkinson and Porter. Then this is for 7th position, and they might be 3 wide. In fact, they are. That's his on the grass for Douglas. Mackenzie Douglas going up the inside of both of them. Surely not. 3 wide at the apex, and he will pick the pocket of both of the R Racing drivers. Great driving, and did not lack for commitment, did he? Kept his right foot planted even on the damp grass and managed to pick up 2 places as a result. So Mackenzie Douglas goes into 7th, Porter 8th, and Hopkinson falls now down to 9th position. Porter with a late lunge up the inside at Old Hall corner. And, well, behind, Hopkinson's race starting to unravel rather now. Bounces over the grass again and might lose another place to Fernandez. I think he will. Yes, Fernandez squeezing across his nose as they drop down through Denton's and into the left-hander at Cascades. Out onto the Lakeside Straight we go. Charlie Hart has lost 4th position. Through goes Harrison, and through will go Swarthen as well. But Harrison's got past both of them, hasn't he? So the 38 car last time we saw him was 6th. Now he is 4th, and will now try to make his escape from these two. A shame for Charlie Hart, really, having made a good start, had his nose in front for a couple of seconds at the beginning of the race for the race lead, but ultimately just got boxed out at the first corner and has never really been let off the hook since. That doesn't look like 1.3 seconds anymore, and it's not, because actually on the previous lap, well, the previous lap the gap went up by a few hundredths, but on this lap in Sector 1, Schwartz has gained a 10th or so on Freddie Slater, and I would wager he's taken more out of him in Sector 2, and of course the closer you get, the more of a slipstream you start to pick up, so we could have a fight for the win on our hands before race is over. 8 minutes and a bit to go. So far, all of the action has been happening behind those leading three, but yes, a personal best middle sector for Schwartz, and that time he was about a 10.5 quicker than the leader. So the gap should be well under a second now by the time they get to the end of this, the 6th lap of racing. And towards Lodge Corner comes the fight for 4th position. Harrison not yet able to make a break in P4. Doesn't feel the need to defend at Lodge Corner. He's virtually being pushed around the track, isn't he, by Segurathan behind, who runs very wide over onto the green concrete. That's not exceeding track limits. I'm not sure what is. Didn't seem to gain him any huge advantage, it must be said. New fastest lap then for the 2nd place man, and Hugo Schwartz with a 2:02.535 is now only 0.6 of a second away from the race lead. So that gap suddenly shooting down, and as I said, now he's within half a second. He'll start to pick up more of a slipstream, and should be able to close in the last couple of car lengths relatively easily through some of the high-speed sections at Oulton Park. Oulton is a track that many regard as a technical, tight, twisty circuit. It's actually got a surprisingly high average speed, and that means that the slipstream in these juniors will certainly start to take effect. Alicia Parmovsky will be hoping to see the battle erupt in front, because that might allow the 3rd place driver to close in on the top two. Harrison, Segurathan and Hart continuing their entertaining scrap. Lots of sideways action from these two. Watch for the curb strike. Well, actually, that was pretty neat and tidy for Harrison that time around. Because Mackenzie Douglas with Porter, and there, side by side on the inside goes Fernandez. Was that a pass for position? Yes, it was. That's into 10th position ahead of Thomas Spragg in the 16 car, but Thomas comes back at him now over the hill. That's the outside line into Hislops. Be very late on the brakes to make this one stick, but you can go around the outside through the right to get the inside for the left. But no, Fernandez, having none of that, moves back into the top 10. That number 90 car's been in and out of the top 10 a few times. Gets 2 wheels on the dirt between Hislops and Knickerbrook, though. Puts him offline slightly for the right-hander, but wherever Spragg wants to go, there is a car right in his way. Gives him a bit of a push, perhaps, up Clay Hill. Slightly interesting place to be conducting a bit of bump drafting. Settle in again, single file through Druids Corner. Down towards the braking zone at Lodge we go then. Harrison and Segurathan, 4th and 5th, locked in combat as they have been for a little while now. The lap times like for the leaders, meanwhile, almost identical. A 2:02.992 for Slater, 2:02.938 for Schwartz. So it's went up by a couple of hundredths. Hearing, by the way, that there is a 5-second penalty being handed out to Reza Segurathan. So the man in 5th position right now is getting a 5-second track limits penalty. We saw him run wide, didn't we, at Lodge Corner last time around. And so there, confirmation on your screen, 5-second time penalty for the 5th place car. And that means that, in a way, Harrison's sort of off the hook now. He could actually afford to let the 78 car go and would still re-inherit 4th place by the flag. Gravel on the track all of a sudden at Shell. Someone's had a moment on the entry to the right-hander. And the window, by the way, I've just seen a car heading for the pit lane. That was 66 car of Allen, who I seem to recall we saw having a spin earlier on, didn't we? So it's been a lively day for Freddie Allen. His race is now done. This, though, for the race lead, and Freddie Slater really now being asked all the right questions of Hugo Schwartz, yesterday's race winner by 3 and a bit seconds. I don't think he's going to win this one by quite the same margin, is he? Nose to tail as they come through Hislops into the right-hander at Knickerbrook Corner. This is proper Ginetta Junior racing. And as I said, drivers get better every time they head out onto the track. And Hugo Schwartz going quicker today than he was even yesterday. And Freddie Slater's going to have a real race on his hands now. Freddie moves to cover the inside line through Druids. They're going to have time for 2 more laps, I think, at the end of this one. So 2 more laps to defend for the race leader. And already, I'd say they're starting to delay each other to the point that 3rd placed Alicia Parmovsky is closing in as well. That gap definitely coming down on this lap. In Sector 1, Parmovsky was a 10th quicker. Sector 2, half a second quicker than the race leader. So this could become a 3-way fight in the final lap or so. Across the line they go. Again, defensive line taken by Slater. To the outside goes Schwartz. Now, outside on the way in could give a slightly better exit for the 33 car. It does, but which side of the road does he go? Slater will surely cover the left-hand side. Parmovsky's got a grandstand view of this as they go side by side through Denton's. To the outside line goes Schwartz, but again, that's the wrong side of the road, really. A cambered corner at Cascades too, so you can sometimes be brave and try to go around the outside, but it didn't work that time. Schwartz settles back in line again, pulls into the slipstream, pulls back out to the outside into Island Bend. This really quick, full commitment left-hander. The cars sliding around as they pitch themselves into the braking zone at Shell. And look how much closer that Elite Motorsport car in third is getting, as Parmovsky joins in the fun and is gesticulating at someone. I'm not entirely sure who Alicia is gesticulating at. I'm pretty sure the two in front are not paying attention. But absolutely nose to tail now between these top three runners. Over the hilltop they go. And this now, in a way, plays into the hands of Freddie Slater, because Hugo Schwartz can't just focus on attack, has to worry about what's going on behind him as well. Any attempted move that he makes might end up losing momentum and opening the door for third-place driver Alicia Parmovsky, who, yes, potentially was trying to get a message to Hugo Schwartz there that she wasn't going to attack him. I'm just not convinced that Hugo was watching in the mirrors for hand gestures from Alicia at that particular moment. He's got other things on his mind right now, trying to get the lead away from Freddie Slater. Third place group goes through. They're still in the same order on the road. Harrison, Swirathan and Hart, but of course Hart will re-inherit fifth place with this penalty for the 78 car ahead. Other battles that have raged on all race long. Fernandez and Sprague still nose to tail. This is true often of Ginetta Junior racing. It's very hard to escape from cars behind you. So we tend to get drivers locked in combat for the duration of the race, which is sadly nearly over. One more lap to go. Minute and 20 left on the clock. Any one of three drivers potentially could still win this race, but the moment Parmovsky arrived on the rear bumper of Hugo Schwartz, suddenly he dropped back a car length or so from Freddie Slater. That little distraction of having another car in his mirrors, perhaps just meaning that Freddie Slater might have an easier time of this on the final lap than it first seemed. This is Ginetta Junior racing. We won't be counting any chickens just yet. Over half a lap to go. Still a few places that Hugo Schwartz could try and build up a challenge, but he needs to be closer than this. Isn't close enough to throw it up the inside at Shell. Parmovsky takes the middle of the road there. Carry a few different lines into that corner again, because it's got such a steep banking to it. You can go in quite tight, carrying a lot of speed, and still hook up an apex. Oh, two cars off further back. That's 19 and 48. They are teammates and are racing, and they're going to slide back into the road, are they? Oh, that was nearly big. The 19 car is Mikey Porter. He will continue on his way, but never good when you see two cars from the same team sliding off in the same incident. So Porter will rejoin. Hopefully the other car gets going as well. And we don't have a lengthy recovery after this race to get a car recovered back to the pit lane. So less than half a lap to go now. The time ticks down to 0. The final lap of this second round of the Michelin Ginetta Junior Championship. Another really entertaining race. Yesterday's battle for second rather stole the show. This one a bit of a slow burner, but it really picked up towards the end. I reckon, though, that Freddie Slater, barring any mistakes, should be okay now. Can Alicia Parmovsky launch a challenge against Hugo Schwartz for second? Lodge Corner is the last opportunity to do so. Does she peek to the inside? No, not quite close enough in the end. So it looks as though they will remain in the same order. Through the dip, over Deer Leap, a double race victory to kickstart the 2023 campaign for Freddie Slater, who wins race number 2 at Oulton Park. But that one he really had to work for. Hugo Schwartz second. Third position goes the way of Alicia Parmovsky. And that makes up really nicely for her non-finish yesterday. And fourth position will go the way of Finn Harrison, much better than 7th yesterday too. And of course, we get the Charlie Hart car back into the top 5 by virtue of that penalty for Riza Swirathan. Freddie Slater had to get his defensive boots on in that race and played that really nicely, actually. Only really had to properly defend for a couple of laps. And as soon as Parmovsky arrived on the scene, that did sort of take a little bit of the pressure away from the race leader. But Freddie still had to make sure he didn't make any mistakes, and he didn't make any mistakes, never put a foot wrong in that race, and certainly setting out his stall as the early season championship favourite. Points on the board for Alicia Parmovsky though, 26 points, finishing in 3rd position. It's never too early to start thinking about championship points. There is this tendency to sort of ignore that until you get into the second half of the season, but every race is worth the same number of points, and the points you score at this stage of the season will form basis for your championship challenge over the coming months. Freddie Slater then gets the double race victory here at Oulton Park by just over half a second in the end over Hugo Schwartz 2nd, Alicia Parmovsky was 3rd, and then it was Finn Harrison 4th, Charlie Hart 5th, and in 6th position the number 78 car of Risa Sirurathan. Mackenzie Douglas, who had a lively run, to 7th, Fernandez was 8th, Spragg 9th, Porter 10th, and Robinson in 11th position. The 48 car of Luca Hopkinson in the end slipped way further down than he probably should have been in 12th, ahead of Robinson, Moss and Livesey in 15th position. So, exciting second race here at Oulton Park in the Michelin Ginetta Junior Championship. Let's take a look at a few of the highlights. Well, it was a lively start, one car creeping towards the back of the field, but Charlie Hart from the outside of row 1 for a wonderful moment looked as though he was going to challenge for the race lead. Alicia Parmovsky made a good start from the 2nd row as well to break into the top 3 in the early stages. But at the head of the field, Freddie Slater went door to door with Charlie Hart. Hart tried to tough it out around the outside line, and that was to his detriment in the end, and Hugo Schwartz was able to come through into 2nd position. Those two then started to pull away as Charlie Hart had to really get his elbows out to try and hang on to 3rd, something he wasn't able to do. Parmovsky went through, but Charlie Hart would eventually drop a couple more places before the flag. There was a spin at the first corner for the 66 machine of Freddie Allen. He would later retire to the pit lane, whilst this brilliant 3-wide move saw Mackenzie Douglas take 2 positions at Lodge Corner, getting past a pair of the R-Racing teammates, having been squeezed onto the grass down the preceding straight. It was spectacular stuff as the youngsters thrashed the cars over the dips and the turns and the twists of Oulton Park's international circuit. It became a 3-way fight for the victory in the closing stages. Alicia Parmovsky closing on the top 2, whilst there was a tangle of teammates at Island Bend that sent 2 of the R-Racing cars off through the grass. However, it was the number 7 car for R-Racing that claimed a 2nd race victory of the season, a perfect start to the year for Freddie Slater.